it says going live.
Okay.
You're live. There we are.
Hi, everybody. So I did about half the class
We'll
right.
do it live!
We did about half the class there, and apparently we weren't on. So, you know, live TV, right? So I'll start over again. I'm Uncle Scott with feedSCV and the Speakeasy Bakery. feedSCV is a 501c3 charity co-founded by myself and Todd Wilson. The Speakeasy Bakery is a division of it, and it got its name from, you know, let's just go on to the pie. A little bit of housekeeping first before I go on. I just want to thank everybody in the crew for coming in and for getting this thing set up. We'll name some names a little bit later. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, like all of our stuff, and we're going to have a good time today. We're already having a good time. So the Empire Apple Pie is what we're going to be doing today. The Empire Apple Pie got its name because once we started getting some success with both the Speakeasy Bakery and feedSCV, we kind of went back and looked at everything, and this pie and one instance is what got our empire going. A couple of friends were asking about apple pies. I answered the call, but I said, because of the dogs that I have, that they should send me a message when they get there, and I'll bring the pie out. Another friend remarked at that point, "What, are you running some kind of a speakeasy?" That's when the Speakeasy Bakery started, and things went on and on from there. So once we sort of acknowledged the fact that we had an empire, we started referring to this as the Empire Apple Pie. I want to make a couple of comments. We're going to be making from the recipe that hopefully you've gotten. If you don't, let us know and we'll get it over to you. The double crust measurements are for using a standard apple pie or a standard pie tin or dish. Part of the allure of the Empire Apple Pie is that we use this real deep metal dish. So the ingredient list changes just slightly if you're going to use the bigger dish. So instead of 280 grams of all-purpose flour, up that to about 320 grams. Instead of a half a teaspoon of salt, go ahead and make it a teaspoon. And instead of 16 tablespoons of butter, it should be 18. Now, the next thing I would normally do is show you how I measure out using a scale the flour, salt, and sugar, except I already did that when we weren't live. So, you know, in your mind's eye, just imagine me pouring all that in there, and there it is. So I usually kneel at the altar of, if it's more difficult, it's probably better. There's a few exceptions to that, and making pie crust is one of them. So I like to use instead of using either one of those dough, well, I don't know, a pastry cutter or your hands or a fork or something like that. Somewhere along the line, somebody used a food processor to make the crust, and it works so well. And it actually, I think, unless I guess you're a professional chef, which I am not, I think it makes it better. So let me get some butter here. So 16, let's get this. 16 tablespoons is basically 2 sticks of butter, so I got 3, so I can shave off a couple more. And what we're going to do is basically cut them into tablespoons. This is the time when, if you haven't already peeled and cored your apples, you might want to try to catch up. I am going to try to be pacing this so that if you do fall behind here and there, because I do have a few little labor saving and sort of quick ways of doing things, you'll be able to catch up. And we will stop occasionally maybe to take a couple of questions. So let's Actually, are there any questions yet?
No questions yet.
Okay. So place your, oh, did I already give this a twist? Kind of space the butter out. Now when we get to processing it, there's a sort of a sound that it makes when it's just about right, but basically you're looking for, you know, they always say corn-sized pieces of butter or pea-sized pieces of butter. With the food processor, there's kind of a sound that it makes when it's at that point. And I don't know if it'll translate well to YouTube, but we'll give it a shot. And if not, we'll do a down shot so you can kind of see. All right. We're going to need that a little bit later. Okay. We ready to go? Let's give it a few pulses and break it up, and then let it go for a bit. And then a few more pulses, and then let it go. So when it starts, the sound that it makes is it stops like knocking the big pieces of butter around. Okay, we get a down shot on that.
I'm the director back here.
Director, can you tell you? So you can see that there's a couple of larger pieces, but most of it is like little pea-sized or corn-sized pieces.
Show it to Sid. Push it or Sid. Yeah.
Get in there. Can you see that? All right. Okay. So now, and this is if there's a, I would say a hard part or crucial part, it's right at this moment, because now we're going to add some ice water to the flour and butter, and this is the place where a little bit of judgment is involved and experience. So if it doesn't come out right the first time, you know, try again. So I'm going to get some ice water here. It says 8 to 12 tablespoons. So this morning I made a test pie, and it ended up taking about 14. So I'm gonna start off with 12, and then see where we go. Kind of disperse it out. I think that was 11, but let's see where we go. So then we just cut that water in. Try to work quickly. It gets absorbed pretty fast, but as you do the cutting motion with your spatula, it kind of disperses it. The trick is to not handle it really any more than you have to, because if you just mix it and really get it in there and overhandle it, the crust will end up being a little bit tough. So right now it's looking pretty good, but I just got a feeling because of this morning. So I'm gonna stick another couple of tablespoons, and then you get to start using your hands. So we'll get that in there. Okay. I think we're going to be pretty good here. So get your hands in there and see if it'll basically stick together, if it still is coming apart. There's still quite a bit of looseness there. So I'm going to put a little bit more. But that should do it. Basically, if you don't get enough liquid in there, it's going to be hard to work with afterwards. But even if you end up at that point, at that place, there's ways to kind of get around it. So at the moment, it's looking like it's going to stick pretty good. So kind of push it into two pieces that are relatively equal in size. It's okay if one is bigger by a little bit, because you can end up, sometimes I like to make the lower crust a little bit bigger so you can then fold up the edges over and in. Okay, we need some you know what? Let's see. Where's my... It's messy business. All right, so we're going to do the two separate pieces of crust. Now, before you wrap it, try to make it into more or less a disc. And then once we get the wrapping on, we're going to do a little bit more of that. Okay, so I can already tell, I mean, there are some cracks in the dough, if you can pull in there, which might translate later to a little bit of difficulty, but actually that'll be good because I can show you how to deal with that. So let's put that one there. Let's do the next one and we'll get it in the freezer. And then we get to slice apples. We need a bigger sink. All right. Once again, form it into more or less a disc, and then get the plastic over it. All right. I think it's going to be okay. All right, into the freezer for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15. Let's clean up a little bit. So next is the apples. I've got kind of here's another one of my labor-saving devices. Is this monster here. So it's an attachment for my KitchenAid, which peels apples. Obviously, you don't have to run out and buy one of these to make an apple pie. One of these will work. It just takes longer. So we're going to go ahead and do 8 apples for this pie. A little space there. Now, sometimes these are Granny Smith apples. I like the Granny Smith apples because there's a tartness to them, and then you can use the sugar that you add later on to adjust to your taste. So my wife likes a little bit of a sweeter pie, so I usually put a little bit more sugar than what the recipe calls for. Excuse me 1 minute. But if you like a real tart pie, you can cut down the sugar or just use the regular sugar. Let's get rid of the stems.
Scott, we have a question.
Yes.
Take a look at the big board at the bottom there.
Am I looking at the bottom?
Yeah.
Is it better to make the crust the night before if you have the time? Doesn't matter. You can absolutely make it the night before, put it in the refrigerator, and it'll be fine the next day. Makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't do the same for the apples because the apples have to macerate, which basically is when you combine them with various sugars and spices and lemon juice, they start to lose some of their juices, and if you let that happen overnight, it's going to be a little too juicy. Okay, so now the fun begins. Now when I did it this morning, it wasn't kicking in right away. All right, here we go. All right, that's one. One apple. Whoops, wrong way. It's mesmerizing, isn't it?
Other question?
Okay, I'll hold on 2 seconds. Do the apples shrink? Yes, they do somewhat. So you'll see how high it gets piled in the. I'm looking over there. I should be looking here. You'll see how high it gets piled in the pan, and most of the time, what you end up with is the shell keeps its shape when it bakes, but there'll be a little bit of room above that in the apples, and you can just like push it down. But yeah, it does absolutely. And we'll also see. When we get to the point of putting the apples into the shell, we'll gauge at that point if we've got too many. I always like to start off with more than I think I need because I do like that high dome, and if I don't have enough, then it ends up being just like a normal apple pie. Okay. I like the question and answer format. I like that. Let's do that more. Let's do more of that. But honestly, if you're going to make apple pies like all the time, you've got to get one of these. There was more than one time where I thought, maybe I'll make an apple pie, and then I realized how long it takes to use one of these, and I'd go, maybe next time. And they do actually, they make the hand crank kind of these, which are, somewhere in between probably. Okay, last apple. Let's hope it don't spoil the whole bunch. All right. Next step. We do want to take off whatever green there is left on the ends. I mean, as far as peelers go, if you've never used one of these bow peelers, I highly recommend them. They just seem to do the best job of any peeler I've used. You don't have to get it all because as you're going to see next with the coring device, that'll take care of the rest of it. I'm curious if anybody wants to chime in. Are there people that are trying to actually keep up with us? Let's see how that goes over. All right. Now, the dangerous portion of the show. So, labor-saving device number 3. Sorry about that. An apple corer and slicer. So, I have one caution about this because it almost happened to me. When you're doing the coring, let's get that over there. Make sure you sort of wiggle just with very light pressure down to where the blade is fully engaged, and then put your hands on top and slam it down. The caution is at least once or twice I came very close to doing this kind of thing where I had my fingers underneath and just barely caught myself before I slammed it down, and you know, it wouldn't have been pretty. So just be careful. So it's basically once you get that in and positioned, I'll go there. Now, I'm going to do one thing here. So I've found that from the standpoint of quickness, I like to slice them in half and just do, actually I just did the wrong thing, just do them all for each apple while it's on the cutting board, and then scoop. I used to do just cut and place and cut and place, and it just, for some reason, takes a lot more time. Okay, so once again, place it. And occasionally, like there, you'll leave a couple of seeds. So just watch out for those. Did we find anybody that's playing along? What if you don't peel them? Then they have skin on them. I've never made it with the peel. I'd be curious how that would come out. But I don't think I've ever seen a recipe where you didn't peel them. I'm guessing they might have some chewiness that you otherwise wouldn't have. It's nice to have an industrial size garbage can right next to you, off camera. I don't have that in my house. I usually have just a little bowl, little trash bowl, right? Yeah, there, lime gloss. I am. You're gonna, oh, any other type of apples? Sure, I've heard of a lot. I've never made an apple pie without these. I mean, if you use, like, I don't even know all the other, the other names of various apples, but there's other apples that aren't as tart that are going to be a lot more sweet. So you can, if you really like a sweet apple pie, you can play with those. I would say, or I'm guessing that if you're going to use a sweeter apple, you won't use as much sugar, which for some people might be a good way to go. So again, I've never made an apple pie without Granny Smith. I really like that tartness. Knife skill class coming up too. Right, Todd? Soon. So as long as I'm just going through the motions here, you know, we've got plans for a few other classes. We'll certainly do some pasta, which was also a very popular class. I've been doing a lot of vegetarian cooking lately, and enjoying it quite a bit. So I'm hoping to do some of that. The ubiquitous Tammy Jones has agreed to do some more difficult bread classes, and I'll of course be doing the no need. Maybe we can convince Todd to do his challah, or what's the other one you do? The well, you do pretzels and
We've got special holiday programming coming up.
brioche. Delicious. Actually, pretzels would be a good timing right now, right? It's Oktoberfest in September. All right. Well, if you're ever nervous about chopping stuff, try doing it on live YouTube. That's a lot of apples, but we're going to go for it. I think these are a little bit bigger than the ones that I did for my test pie, so I used 8 apples for that too. But we'll see how it works out. It's a little sad, it's the last apple. Oh well. That's all she wrote. Okay. Now, let's get the spices going. Get a little bowl here. Actually, I can reuse that. So a quarter cup each of brown sugar. Let's put that off to the side for a sec. And regular sugar. And from my wife, a rounded. And then we've got a little bit of ground cinnamon. There you go, half a teaspoon. I'm just going to estimate, because that's also variable. If you like a little bit more cinnamon, by all means. Same thing with the nutmeg. I like a little bit of extra nutmeg. Come on, there we go. And a little bit of salt. Okay. Whoa. Cornstarch. Oh, you know what no, we didn't forget. Okay, salt, cornstarch. Let's see. Said a tablespoon and a half. What happened to my tablespoon? It's wet. Okay. And some of that in there. Okay, now we're going to need a little bit more butter for the next step. Let me mix that up a bit. So I want to sort of have the butter ready and waiting. Couple of tablespoons. I'll just and these we want to cut into little pats because we're going to be dispersing it inside the pie once we assemble it. Okay, we got that ready to go off to the side. Okay. My lemon juice. What does it say? A tablespoon. So again, there's a lot of apples here, so I'm probably going to use a little bit more than a tablespoon. Get that in there. And let's toss those around a bit. Get it nicely distributed.
Should Lynn start heating up her oven, she's wondering?
That's a good point. So yeah, when you, I usually actually turn the oven on when I first start. At this point, if you haven't turned your oven on, you can turn it on, and if it's not hot after you're done with the pie can sit in the fridge fully assembled for a while. So that's not a problem. I'm sorry I didn't mention that first for those that are following along. But yeah, 450 degrees to start off with. Good question. And thank you. So once that's once the lemon juice is pretty much fully dispersed, we're going to sprinkle our spice and cornstarch on there. And again, disperse. Now, what will happen when it macerates, it basically with some of the juices come out of the apple. And you've got a choice to make depending upon how juicy the apples are and how long you let it macerate. If you're taking your time, or you know, you don't have to put if you put the crust in the refrigerator, which is usually has to be in there about a half an hour at least. So it gives you more time to it develops more juice. I tend to like a pie that doesn't have too much juice, but you can make it if you like it that way, and I've seen people and know people that like it that way. To just when you cut it open, it just, you know, all the juice comes out. I don't like it that way, but if you do like it that way, you can leave all the juice in and just pour it right in. But I'm going to do something sort of in between just to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's let that sit over there. Now we get to the really fun part, which is rolling out the dough. And this is what, you know, freaks out most people. I've got a pastry sheet here, thanks to Tammy Jones. Thank you. But you can just roll it out on a floured surface. Actually, boy, I'm not sure if I should put flour on that. Should I put flour on that? Yeah, okay. I've never used a pastry sheet before. So let's check the dough. It feels just about right. Actually, what I'm going to do is weigh it. And if there is a bigger one, that's 362. 347. So I'm going to use that one for the bottom. It's not a big difference, but okay. So let's get a little flour out here. And on here. I like to use a rolling pin that's tapered because it gives you a little bit more control. Once upon a time I got a really nice marble rolling pin gifted to me, which works great for things like croissants and things where the dough, it's really important to keep the dough cool. But I found for pie crust it doesn't work as well because it kind of doesn't give you that nice round. Okay, here's another little goodie that I think I got from, or learned about from Tammy. So don't be afraid to use the flour. Start off, and you can see it's real crumbly. That's okay. But start off just by mashing it down a little bit with your hands before you use the pin. And then try to rescue the edges a little bit. Now, what's going to happen is as I roll it out, there's going to be scraggly pieces, and basically all you have to do is once you roll it out as far as you need to, you can just cut a few pieces off here and slap it on over there, and it works just fine. So let's just dive right in here. Try to keep it as even thickness everywhere as possible. It's not always that possible, but you do the best you can. I know what I need that I don't have. A dough knife. Oh well. Next time. Okay. That's picking up a little here, so. Now you'll see, so it's, as predicted, it's starting to branch out a little bit. But that's not unusual and definitely savable. Recoverable. There's the word I was looking for. So again, to the extent that you can, you want to do it quickly and not overwork it. Okay, so you belong to me. Let's put that there. So this is the way you basically end up with a round shape, is as those pieces kind of go off on their own continental drift, you're just going to rescue them. All right. So some of the pieces sort of naturally fit right back in where they were, some of the pieces not so much. So I think I need a little bit over here. Once you get it in the pan and it bakes, it all kind of comes together. All right, so that's overlapping somewhat. I actually like a little bit more over here. I got a feeling now this is where I'm really going to need a dough knife, and I don't have one. Let's see what happens. So basically, yeah, shit. I tell you what. Spatula. Improvise. Okay, so that's all loose. Let's fold it over and get it into the dish. That should overlap. If you lose a piece here and there, you can get it back. Okay, yeah, I probably should have rolled it out a little bit more, but we're going to make it work. Another aspect of the Empire apple pie is that it ain't pretty. Okay, then before you move on, put about 8 to 9 little dashes in the bottom, and then we'll move on to our next one. Let's get some more flour. We already know we're going to have a hard time, so let's see if we can counter that somehow. Nope. Oh boy. All right. So the thing is about it being this crumbly is it's to a certain extent it's something to shoot for. I mean, this may be a little bit overdoing it, but generally speaking, when you do overwork it, and it's just one, you know, like almost like pasta-like dough, is you're definitely going to get a thinner and tougher crust. So this crumbliness lends itself to getting the flaky crust that we're looking for. So you just kind of have to work with it. There we go. Let's flip it again so it doesn't tell you what. All right, here goes nothing, or everything. Again, try to keep the thickness as even as you can. Push from the center out and the center back. This should be interesting. Okay. That's going to be a little bit more that way and that way. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the apples before we go to the next step. And so what you'll normally see is down on the bottom, I don't know if you want to pull in on that. You can see that it has started, the juices have started to come out. And what I typically do is sort of redistribute that juice, but I don't want to get all of it because I just think it makes it a little bit too juicy. Now, okay. So let's see. Let's move this over here. Now at this point, what you want to do is get a pan, maybe stick some parchment paper in it, because that's what you're gonna put the apple pie into the oven on the pan. So if it happens to bubble over, which it often does, you know, it will make a mess in your actual oven. And it also helps as you're making it here. So I just get in there with my hands, because way I don't have to get all that juice in. I mean, maybe some of it. Kind of try to fill in the spaces so that when the apples do shrink a bit, it doesn't go down too far. Oh, this is going to be nice. If I can get that crust over. I always get the crust over. All right, I think that's probably enough. So, you know, maybe we had one extra apple. All right. Now, this is the part that I often forget. And I've been known to actually take the top crust off because I really hate missing this step. But just distribute these dots around as evenly as you can. And that's also one of the reasons why I don't like to use too much juice, because you're also going to have this butter in there. I love apple pie. Everybody loves apple pie, right? Is there anybody that doesn't love apple pie? I want to know. Whatever. Okay. Right in the center there. All right. A moment of truth and consequences. Okay. Now again, I said the Empire apple pie is not pretty, but it is delicious. So to the extent it's hanging down on the side, just fold it in all the way. Don't you dare cut off one little piece. None of this trimming around the edge to make a nice, make it look nice, because this is an Empire apple pie, and an Empire apple pie has crust for days, and you just have to do that. Or just don't call it an Empire apple pie. I don't know why you'd want to do that anyways, but there we go. Okay, again, that ain't pretty. You know, I've seen apple pies that are all kinds of designs and stuff, and that's fine. That's what you want. It's not what I want. Okay, last two things. Let's see. You know what? Okay. Just a little bit of milk. And we're going to brush that around. It helps with the browning. So we're getting towards the end here, folks. We're not going to sit here for 45 minutes while it cooks. So if you have questions, get them ready, because that'll be the next part of this. So your oven is preheated to 450. If it's not, what I would do is before you put the milk on, I would go ahead and put it in the fridge. Then when you're ready to put it in, do the milk. And the last thing is some either brown or turbinado sugar on the top. I like turbinado. Just gives a little extra sweetness to counter the tartness of those Granny Smiths. And then the last thing is 3 venting cuts. And that is the, well, that's not the Empire apple pie. This we put in the oven. And then after 10 minutes at 450, reduced to 350, probably at that point turn the pie a little bit in case your oven has some hot spots, and then maybe turn it another 20 to 30 minutes later. The pie should be in the oven for a total of about an hour, but keep your eye on it. It's cooked well enough to eat, probably in 45 minutes. The extra 15 minutes is to your taste how brown you want the crust. And how brown I want the crust is like that. You got that? So, all right, we have some, no, we don't have any more questions. That's basically it. Yeah, that's it.
Give it a few minutes for questions because there's a bit of a lag.
Okay.
Line, so.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll wait. In the meantime, while we're waiting for questions, we are a charity. We do get our money from you. Donations are always appreciated. You can go to feedSCV.org. There's a donate button. When one of your friends puts up their birthday post, you can donate there. You can donate by participating in one of our activities. All donations are tax deductible. Check with your accountant, obviously, because accountants are important. I'd like to thank everybody who helped build the studio. This is going to be a great spot. We're going to utilize it like crazy. Robert Magnus, Robert Townsend, Mike Picarillo, and all the donors who gave us supplies. Most of the stuff that you see here were donated by individuals like you. So we really, really appreciate it. And remember again to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, and hit the like button so we can get lots of likes, because we like likes. Any questions yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, I am. Well, I'm trying to see where they started first.
No, just the bottom one.
Oh, bottom one. Okay. Have you ever used a manual peeler core slicer? Thinking those slices might be thinner and wondering if those would still work. A manual peeler core slicer. I'm not even sure what that is, a manual peeler. I mean, you mean it's not this, and it's not this. So I'm not sure what it is. Maybe you can expand on that. I'm looking at the, let's see, there's a hole.
You did have a little hole in the crust, a couple places.
Okay, so yeah, if there's a hole, I didn't see it. But yeah, you can just take a piece of crust. It's actually a good idea if you can, if you've got enough crust to, even though it's sacrilegious to cut something off, like I said before, to cut it off and cover that hole. I didn't notice the hole at the time, so otherwise I would have done that. But it wouldn't. It wouldn't destroy the pie. I mean, it's a vent, just like the vents that we cut. So it wouldn't have a major effect on the pie. Okay. We done. Thank you. Yes, we are. My crust has much bigger chunks of butter than what I thought it should have. I just sent Todd a picture. Okay. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And it'll still come out great. It might, I mean, I'm kind of surprised with that big of chunks that the crust itself didn't break apart more, because that's usually why you want the smaller sort of pea size. But that should still be okay. It'll be fine. Thank you, Todd. Are we going to cut into this or nah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't have a, what I don't have is, we'll improvise. We need well, I mean, I can just use the knife, but we don't have a pie server. Thank you. Put that on the list. Okay. What we do need is, hold on, off camera. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know where I put them. Here's some, I need a dish. Anybody got a dish? Live TV. Okay.
Yeah, where are
Yeah, where are the dishes?
We got plates.
We have plates somewhere.
Are they in the cabinet?
I don't think so. Let me see. Did everybody see our robot, by the way? Thank you, Jeff Johnson. Stu Potts, is that his name?
Stew pot.
Stu Pot. Let's see, nothing there. Hold on. We gotta get this pie to here. No.
The cord is in the way.
Okay. Well, you know what? We're just gonna eat it right off the table. No, we're not. I know we had black plates somewhere,
Oh, we have those, yeah.
but I'm not sure where they are anymore. They were in the sink a minute ago. Wait a minute. No. Okay, folks, I hope you're still hanging out because we're about to cut open the pie. Promise, I promise. Let's see, we're still looking. How about paper towels? We've got forks. Let's just use paper towels. We're desperate. There's a, oh, we have black plates. Yes, all right. Phew. You can't think of everything, right? Get yourself some of these too. Of gloves. I don't get a royalty. Here we go. Thank you. Off camera. All right. So we're going to serve up at least a couple of pieces, right? 1, 2,
Yeah, in the drawer.
3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Don't you wish you were here? Or maybe you're at home with your pie already. I don't know. All right. Let's just do it. Oh, man. That is crunchy. Let's do this. Oh, I need that server. Oh, well. Let's just do it. Once I get the first one out. Look at that. Hold on. There were some holdouts. There it is. Oh, well, the next person gets it. All right, man, that crust. Yikes. Yikes in a good way. It is flaky. Look at that. Ah, that's what you're looking for, folks. Oh, excuse my everything. This is dinner. Oh man, we're going to have a party after this is over. Cut, let's get out of here.
Is there ice cream next door?
Oh, I don't know. Carol? By the way, if you want to get involved and volunteer, you can do that too.
And you get pie.
And you get pie. Not every time, but you know, this time we'll do pie again. Maybe we'll do a berry pie or something. I mean, it's basically the same thing. All right, so thank you to whoever got us utensils. I'm missing one, although we could have used 8 instead of 4, but that's okay. It's good. We're happy. As Graham Kerr used to say, just for you. Are we in? Are we out?
I think that's it.
All right.
Say thanks again, everyone.
Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We, as I said, will be doing more of these. I hope this was as good for you as it was for me. Sorry for the little mess up thing in the beginning, but you know, we got through it. So thank you, everybody, for your donations. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everything. We really appreciate it. And
We're out.
waiting for the, we're out.
Clear.
We're clear. All right.